Welcome to the Vol Report, the one, the only Cooper Mays, and one of my absolute favorites to talk to. And it's brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Of course, Cooper's been sidelined for a bit, so I want to visit with Cooper, but I also want to respect Josh Heupel's policy of not getting into injuries unless it comes out of his mouth. So I can tell you this: originally, Josh Heupel said a couple of weeks. We will see. And also, as far as the specifics of the injury, I don't want to get into that, and I'm not going to. So we'll provide some insight, but I'm not going to give anything away that could perhaps help Tennessee's opponents when they face off against Cooper this season. So let me just ask you this, Cooper, just from the standpoint of missing some time in preseason camp, and you've been in my thoughts and prayers because I know there's a lot riding on this season. It's not like you're a sophomore. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Really am. I really can't complain at all. God is good, and that's about as simple as it is.
This is the type of guy that Cooper is. We're talking before the show started, and he said that through this, which has got to be a challenge, he's gotten closer to the Lord, reading scripture, and I just that's pretty impressive, man, for a guy your age. And I can tell you that I wasn't in the same mindset, but it does make you kind of look at the big picture, I guess, and talk about your faith if you can and how important it is in times like these.
Yeah. So really, I mean, obviously, my mom's played a really big role into that. Like she is, a very very godly woman and has been preaching that throughout my life, and kind of just knowing where you're rooted. You know what I'm saying? And no matter how far you can go, you're always going to be called back to your roots. And I think she did a really good job of rooting our family in that. And also, we had a new addition to our staff, Mackenzie Milton. We've talked about it before, and he's played a really good part in, texting me and checking on me, and sending me scripture, sending me sermons and stuff, and just sending me little, just dropping little inklings of the Lord, kind of, into my life a little bit. And it's always great when you hear it from your mom and dad. Like it rings, but it's like it's kind of like you're like, oh my gosh, you're at kind of like a level that I haven't really been able to even like think about as a possibility. Like y'all, it seems like y'all kind of have it figured out. So when you hear somebody your age or a little bit older than you kind of walk in the same walk as you, and they sprinkle the Lord in to what they're doing and talk about what he's doing for their life, it kind of rings really true, and hits a little bit different.
Remind us if you can, Mackenzie Milton. What role does he play on in the within the program, and who is he, and how have you gotten to know him? Because some may have not seen the last show when we talked about him.
Yeah, so backstory, Mackenzie Milton played for Coach Hype back at UCF. He was a quarterback, like a Heisman candidate, was gonna be a really high draft pick. Ended up winning like 20 something games in a row when UCF like claimed they had the national title, and they had some really great years. And about a couple years before his eligibility ran out, so like, he was slated to get drafted pretty high, and about like 3 games before the season ended, he completely like messed up his knee. Like I don't know the exact terms or anything, so I'm not gonna sit here and act like I know, but had a career-ending knee injury basically, but ended up coming back from it and playing a few games, but kind of just wasn't really to res- get back to where he was as a player. And I think he's taken it upon himself to help me out with what I've got going on, just kind of putting football into perspective and everything. He told me to read Ecclesiastes, which I don't know how many of the listeners have read Ecclesiastes, but Solomon was, one of the wisest kings, like the greatest king of all time in Israel, like very rich, had everything he ever wanted in the world. It was at his fingertips. And he wrote a book and called Ecclesiastes, and it basically just talks about how meaningless all the stuff of the world is. Worldly things, like in the end, it's all meaningless. You can't take any of it with you, and what really will give you fulfillment and happiness is the Lord and His ways, rather than kind of catering to the ways of the world. But oh yeah, also he's in our line room. He I don't know exactly what his title is in our building or anything, but he works with the O line. I'm sure he does a whole heck of a lot more behind the scenes. But yeah, it's been really great being around him for real.
Yeah, and he definitely had an NFL future and that terrible, terrible injury. And I want to be clear, Cooper's nowhere in that situation. Cooper is going to have a great senior career, and Cooper is going to be a great NFL player. I told him before the podcast started he needs to be the center for the Dallas Cowboys since that's my favorite team.
That was where my dad was going to get drafted. So
Yeah, but I really don't care if you go to the Redskins or Niners. Some of the Cowboys hated rivals.
Commanders.
The
The
Commanders. Oh, sorry.
Commanders.
I'm a Mays guy no matter what. And I've said this before. Eric Berry was one of my favorite players. If he played the Cowboys in the Super Bowl, I'd root for Eric Berry. So I'm rooting for Cooper Mays. When it first happens, when you first have to deal with this, what are the first thoughts that flood into your mind as far as being sidelined a bit? What are the first initial thoughts that come out?
I mean, well, obviously you're going to be upset. I don't think anybody out there is going to be happy about missing any time. So you look at it and you're just upset and kind of, I guess, questioning why something like that would happen, and just you have a lot of questions going through your head, like why. But I don't know. I'm not really the type of guy that sits here and like stews over like what has happened or like whatever. I mean, I don't know. There's just not much good in my eyes of being angry about stuff. Like I think there's very few things that like should make you angry and make you really change your mood. I think if something changes your mood or changes how you feel in the present time, like it has complete control over you. So not a lot of things like that really penetrate my heart. So I was mad and just asking kind of like why that went around for an hour or whatever. But it is what it is at the end of the day. I mean, there's so much worse stuff going on. There's so like there it's just I don't know. There's a lot of ways to put it in perspective if you look for it.
How fortunate are you to be a part of a program and a staff that, even though you might be the most important player because of how good you are and who backs you up, even though Tennessee could potentially play for a national championship, I believe in my heart that Josh Heupel, when he says it's players first and when he cares about you as a person before a football player, I do believe that based off the coverage just in the 2.5 years since he's been around. How blessed are you, fortunate that that's the backdrop instead of there are coaches that would rush you back out as soon as they could.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's not many coaching staffs in the country that are as basically, I guess, understanding would be a word that would be thrown around. I don't know, understanding and compassionate and empathetic or whatever. I mean, a lot of those adjectives, but there's few coaching staffs that really understand the whole person rather than just the football player. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very appreciative to play for him. I've played for multiple staffs, like I've like that were two pretty different staffs, but yeah, it makes you appreciate Hype, the way he handles stuff. Like you said, he's been here 2.5 years, and there's a plethora of examples that show how good of a man he is. I mean, at the end of the day, football is a game, and it provides great great resources and opportunities for you. But at the end of the day, like the human comes before the football player, I think, in his eyes, and I think it's the right way to look at it. You know.
Absolutely. So, as far as I don't want to get into when you might return, but do you have certain signs, certain things that you look at that once you start feeling better, you go to the staff or the staff evaluates you, or the training staff evaluates you, or what are kind of the steps in that process? How much is your feedback valued in this type of situation?
Well, I mean, kind of with what I was just saying about Hype, and I think it kind of rings true to all of our program. They do value what I mean. It's not like they're just going to say, "Hey, get back out there." It's day whatever. They're not really that. that kind of thing. I mean, obviously, the person that gets injured knows their body more than a stranger knows their body. Not a stranger, but nobody can feel your pain. So I guess they do take that into account, and they they know what they're doing. I'll say that. I mean, it's as simple as that. They know what they're doing, and the person that is in the body knows their body. So works together and produce the best outcome.
Hey, let's talk what your typical day is like, because I'm sure there is a visit to the training room. I don't know how long or how often, but do you go to practice now? Do you watch practice? Do you try to coach along? Are you able to do that at this point?
Yeah, I'm out there really just I think there was a thing during my sophomore year that I talked about. It was called leading from the bench, and I'm not sitting physically on a bench. You know what I'm saying? But like you can find a place anywhere you're at, whatever area you're in. Injured, starter, guy that's not starting. I mean, there's a possibility for you to get into a spot where you have a purpose and you fill that void. So, I think my place right now currently is filling the void of, being a leader and being able to take a step back and see the whole picture, and I can help whoever needs help. And I kind of played that role my sophomore year too. But I feel like I have a decent vision of the game and know how it's played. So I try to feel that way and do what I can from that area.
I've always wondered though, with players that are sidelined or injured, how hard is it to be around it but not be able to do what you do? Is that a challenge, to be around, to be at practice and not be able to participate?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of it's upsetting, yeah. But I mean, there's so much bigger fish to fry. You know what I'm saying? So I just when you have a lot of responsibility as a leader, you kind of just put all your emotions and feelings and stuff to the back burner, and you kind of just lead with purpose. I think intentionality, and I think that kind of allows me to be able to just block out any emotions and negativity that's swirling, and I'll just put all that energy I have into trying to get the next man better, or whoever else needs help. Some of the young guys that are going through a lot right now, trying to figure out football and life and whatever. You can always find a spot to help. So I mean, I think that'll find it's a good way to I'm not a guy that likes to like bask in my emotions or sorrows or whatever. Like it's not. I mean, like
I sometimes think when I talk to you, I get more emotional about things than you do that have to do with you.
yeah. No, I mean, it is what it is, man. I mean, like yeah, there's a time to be sad and everything, but I mean, how long are you gonna sit there? I mean, me not personally, not long.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
I've taken a few lessons from Cooper and how he approaches life, and he's a smart guy. That's why you should listen to this podcast each and every week. Be sure and subscribe and like and share. Turn your notifications on. A great visiting with Cooper, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. City Heat and Air, integrity matters. Those other HVAC places might try to put, I don't know, a whole new unit in your house when you don't need it. And you don't always need a replacement. Maybe it's just the coolant. Maybe it's just a part. City Heating and Air Conditioning will take care of you. That's cityheatandair.com. Speaking of replacements for the time being, what do you think of the guys? What can you tell me about? Let's start with Addison Nichols. I've been told he's gotten most of the first team snaps in your place. What do you think of him at center? How he's performed to this point?
Yeah, I like Addison a lot. He sits right beside me in the meeting room, so I can drop in little nuggets of information whenever I can and help him. I think he's we've talked about it before. He's huge, strong guy. You know what I'm saying? Came out of high school like that. So now it's just really fine tuning his like figuring out how to play. In the confines of his rules and technique and everything. But all the physical ability in the world.
Yeah, and I want to correct myself. It's Ollie Lane who I think has gotten most of the first team snaps. I'm not asking you; you don't have to tell me. But let's talk about Ollie for a second. Ollie is a guy who's been around the program. How would you describe his knowledge of Tennessee's offensive system?
Yeah, he's right up there with about any of us, who are the guys that are, pretty smart in the room. I think he's a guy that's, I guess it's year 3 now, so he's been studying the stuff for 3 years. He knows his job at probably any interior position, kinda knows what he's doing, and knows all the calls and everything, can get them out with confidence, and, that's such a big part of playing center. If you can figure out how to make calls on the run and see the whole picture, it makes everything a lot easier, and that's kind of the way you gotta play center. I think he's gotten a lot better at it. I think he knows what he needs to do, and I think he's on the right track for sure.
So, talk about the shifting if you can. It looks like it would provide more of an opportunity for perhaps Andre Keurig at left guard until you're back. What can you tell me about Andre and how has he performed?
Yeah, really, really impressed with Andre. I've been impressed with him from the jump. He's one of those guys that I kind of reminds me of me a little bit. That sounds a little bit weird, I guess, and I don't know, but you know what I'm saying. He knows how to translate power with his hips. He's a little bit of a smaller guy like me, not just gargantuan in size. So he's got to play with the right leverage and the right explosiveness and twitch is what they call it, but like being fast, athletic. So I think he's a guy that knows his role. I think he plays football the right way, plays hard and plays violent, and I can always work with a guy like that, man. I truly I enjoy watching people that know how to play football violently. You know what I'm saying? It's not extremely common anymore, as it was back in the day, but he's a guy that possesses that, and I really enjoy it.
Couple other guys that I know Tennessee's looking at, according to Josh Heupel, would be Parker Ball and Bison Lang, but it does appear to be Ollie at this point. And I like what you said about Addison's ability. Something you bring to the offensive line, and you kind of referenced it just then, is the toughness, the meanness. Cooper is the classic play through the echo of the whistle, plays nasty. And I mean that as the ultimate compliment for a football player. How does this group, this offensive line, maintain that mindset until you get back?
Well, I think I'm a part of that. I think,
Still,
yeah, I think I'm a part. I mean, not obviously not physically, but you know, um, but mentally, I think there's got to be a standard that's set and maintained no matter who's in there. It's still Tennessee football and it's still SEC football. I mean, you can't go out there and play not violent. It's not an option. I mean, there's just you can't do it. It's SEC football, and if you don't come with the right energy and the right juice, it ain't gonna work out well for you. And you got to be a guy that takes a lot of pride in that. I take a lot of pride in that. I mean, it's how you got to play. It's a standard that was set long ago, and we're just carrying it out.
love this guy. He's in my thoughts and prayers. He certainly didn't have to visit while he's sidelined for a bit. And I say a bit because you're going to be back before you know it. You're going to be dominating defensive linemen. You're going to be all SC center post season because they left you out, which still makes me mad. And actually, I worked on some media members at SEC Media Days for you. I was like, how did you guys leave him off the postseason list? Because there were just 2 teams instead of 3. But and I'm just going to go ahead and predict it. First round draft pick, probably number 1 overall. That's my guy, Coop.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a pretty safe bet. I'd put, I guess you can't say I'd put money on it anymore. I think what is the gambling stuff's pretty bad.
Don't say that. But
No, yeah,
if those that do, use Zen Sports and the promo code Hooked. But don't do that.
yeah, yeah.
Coop, man, you're an amazing individual, and look forward to you getting back, and look forward to what you're able to do. And I look forward to visiting with you every week. You provide a lot of perspective for a young man. You are mature beyond your years, so I certainly do appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. No doubt.
He's Cooper Mays. I'm Dave Hooker. The Vol Report brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters. This has been a production of Off the Hook Sports.